The Galactic Defense Academy's training facility hummed with the low vibration of artificial gravity generators, their mechanical heartbeat keeping hundreds of species from dozens of worlds anchored to the polished metal floors. Commander Zethkar observed the mixed-species combat training session through reinforced observation windows, his 4 yellow eyes tracking the movements below with practiced precision. On the training mat, Elsa Martinez moved with deceptive casualness, her human frame appearing almost fragile beside the towering Vorthan warriors and heavily armored Kethlani soldiers. Her partner, Helen Chen, stood at the edge of the sparring circle, arms crossed as she watched her friend face off against Vorthak, a 7-foot-tall Vorthan whose reputation for brutality had preceded him to the academy. "The Deathworlder looks scared," sneered Grixtal, a Kethlani soldier whose chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the training facility's harsh lights. His mandibles clicked with amusement as he addressed his squad. Perhaps they should have stayed on their toxic little world. Helen's jaw tightened, but she remained silent. She had learned, during her 6 months at the academy, that humans were viewed as curiosities at best, walking disasters at worst. Most species couldn't fathom how creatures from a Class 12 death world had achieved spaceflight, let alone been accepted into the Galactic Defense Corps. The sparring match began with standard ceremonial bows. Vorthak's massive frame cast a shadow over Elsa as she settled into a loose fighting stance that looked almost lazy to the untrained observer. The Vorthan's primary arms flexed, revealing muscles like steel cables beneath his gray skin, while his secondary arms remained folded behind his back, a gesture of contempt that drew appreciative growls from his species mates in the observation area. "This will be over quickly," Vorthak rumbled, his voice carrying the harmonic undertones that made Vorthan's speech sound like distant thunder. Deathworlders may survive their poisonous planets, but they lack true warrior spirit. Elsa said nothing, her dark eyes tracking his movement as he began to circle her. To the watching aliens she appeared frozen, perhaps paralyzed by fear. Only Helen recognized the predatory stillness that had settled over her friend. The same stillness she'd seen in the mountains of Tibet, when Elsa had tracked a snow leopard for 3 days through terrain that would have killed most humans in hours. The attack came without warning. Vorthak's speed was impressive by galactic standards. His species had evolved as apex predators on a world where hesitation meant death. His massive fist cut through the air toward Elsa's head with enough of force to shatter concrete, while his free hand moved to block any potential counterattack. He had studied human anatomy, knew their reaction speeds, their muscle density, their limitations. The blow should have ended the match in his favor, as so many others had ended. Instead, his fist met empty air. Elsa had moved like liquid mercury, her body flowing around the attack with an efficiency that seemed to violate physics. The watching aliens fell silent, their various forms of vision struggling to track the human's movement. Even the training facility's high-speed cameras would later struggle to capture the precise sequence of what happened next. As Vorthak's momentum carried him forward, overextended and off balance, Elsa's counterattack began. Her right hand, no larger than a Vorthan child's, struck with surgical precision at the nerve cluster below his primary shoulder. The blow, delivered with the full rotation of her hips and the devastating efficiency of 2 decades of martial arts training, sent a shock through the alien's nervous system. Vorthak's roar of surprise became a wheeze of pain as his primary arm went numb. But Elsa wasn't finished. Her left knee drove upward into his solar plexus, a spot she had memorized from xenobiology texts, while her elbow found the pressure point at the base of his skull that controlled his species' balance. The 7-foot alien warrior, veteran of a dozen campaign worlds, crashed to the training mat like a felled tree. The impact shook the reinforced floor and triggered several automatic safety systems. Emergency medical drones began their descent from ceiling alcoves, their scanners already analyzing the fallen Vorthan's vital signs. The silence stretched for several heartbeats before exploding into chaos. Alien voices rose in a dozen languages, some expressing outrage, others demanding explanations. Grixtal's mandibles spread wide in shock, his earlier mockery forgotten as he stared at the impossible scene before him. Impossible. Commander Zethkar whispered, his four eyes blinking. In rapid sequence, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. The force readings. How did such a small creature generate that much kinetic energy? Helen stepped forward, her own movements drawing wary glances from the assembled aliens. Where moments before they had seen weakness, they now recognized something far more dangerous: restraint. Every human in the facility, they realized, had been holding back. "You want to know the secret?" Helen asked, her voice carrying clearly through the training facility's acoustics. She looked around at the watching aliens, noting how many had unconsciously stepped backward. "We come from a world that's been trying to kill us since we first drew breath. Gravity that would crush most of your species. Weather patterns that change without warning. Predators that hunt in packs, diseases that adapt faster than we can cure them." She knelt beside Vorthak, who was beginning to stir under the medical drone's attention, his eyes wide with something approaching fear. "But the worst part? The thing that really made us dangerous?" She smiled, and several aliens shuddered at the expression. "We learned to fight each other. For thousands of years, we perfected the art of warfare against opponents who knew all our weaknesses, who could predict our strategies, who were just as smart and just as desperate as we were." Elsa extended a hand to help Vorthak to his feet, her earlier predatory stillness replaced by genuine concern. "You fought well," she said simply, "but you've never faced an enemy who had to learn to kill their own reflection." The Vorthon warrior stared at her outstretched hand for a long moment before accepting it. As she pulled him upright, a feat that should have been impossible given their size difference, understanding dawned in his four eyes. "Deathworlders," he said quietly, the word carrying new weight, new respect. Commander Zethkar made a note in his personal log as the training session resumed. The human integration program would need significant revision. They had been preparing to teach these creatures how to be soldiers, but it seemed the galaxy's newest allies had been warriors long before they reached the stars. In the sparring circle, Elsa bowed respectfully to her next opponent, and the alien, a Kethalani warrior twice her size, returned the gesture with considerably more reverence than the match before. The age of humanity in the galactic community had begun, and the universe would never be the same.